We all have that one friend, the one who says exactly what's on their mind, no matter what. And that's Sheetal Mars.
That's right. Every week, my friends and I dive into whatever's on my mind: sports, politics, pop culture, even my own struggles, you name it. If I'm thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Unfiltered, unapologetic, and just a little dangerous. Get ready for the wild ride that is Sheetal Weapon. You've been warned.
Welcome to whatever episode this is. Are we at 6? I think we're at 6. This is Lethal Sheethal. Of course, we have Biggie Trog playing sidekick today, and we're going to be talking about whatever we want to. I don't know what we're talking about today. I know that by the time this episode airs, we will have a new old president again. That's what I know. I know that I wasn't that excited to vote, but I did it anyway because, you gots to. And I live in Florida, so I live in a very red state, and I am a card-carrying, blind dog loving, tree-hugging, vegetarian progressive. And when I went into the voting booth last November and I casted my vote for Kamala Harris, I absolutely knew she was going to lose. 100%. I had no guesses that she would, no belief at all that she would win. And that's not only because I'm surrounded by Trump enthusiasts. There's Trump flags all around me. I live in the sticks. It's all farms. That's not like even Californians, even New Yorkers weren't excited. You go to Chicago, they weren't excited. Traditionally blue places, like nobody was excited to cast that vote. But by the way, nobody was excited to cast that vote for Biden. So if we're going to go and start going down that road, I mean, we can. We can talk about why the fuck that all happened. But I mean, let's talk about it because I have been asked as a progressive that isn't okay. And I love the way Hassan Minhaj in his new special, I like the way he talks about it. There's a certain group of people that are intolerable, and then there's or insufferable. And like being progressive just means being absolutely annoying. Like we're the excuse me crowd. Excuse me.
Excuse
That's
me.
that's not how that works. If you knew the systems in place that kept us all down, you wouldn't be behaving like that. Like that, even just talking like that gave me a headache. Like it's just absolutely insufferable. And he's right. It is insufferable. Being that way, acting that way, especially because it's all hypocrisy. Right? Like progressive here's a secret. Progressives are just as much of an asshole as, as anybody who's MAGA or Republican or conservative. We suck too. We are racist too. We are sexist too. We are annoying as fuck. But it's like this idea that if I pretend or if I'm overly in your face aggressive about pointing out your flaws, that somehow you won't see mine. But no, it's true. It's like, of course you see mine. Of course you see it. We're not hiding it. We're not good at hiding it. And there's a purity to it. Like when you're a progressive, you can't be um you can't, how do I say this? You have to be perfect on every single issue. You can't waffle, you can't question, you can't have smoked weed in your past, or now in today's age, you can't have not smoked weed in your past. You can't, like you can't you can't be going, okay, I'm pro-choice, but maybe there is some common sense restriction there, or maybe You know, there isn't just let's throw money at people and that solves all our problems. Like as soon as you deviate from the everybody is good and everybody needs a leg up and we all need to make sacrifices stance, you're no longer progressive. And that's why we find, like, amongst progressives, finding a candidate, like, it's too hard to find a candidate because there's nobody perfect, and we're demanding perfect from our candidates. We're demanding it. Like, Obama was like a lightning in a bottle, right? Like, he that's not gonna happen again in not for a long time. Finding a guy like that who's squeaky clean and charismatic? No, no, it's not happening. And so when I was thinking about this and I go, okay, and we will talk about why people voted for Trump. There were people who voted for Clinton, voted for Biden, and then voted for Trump. Like, that those people exist. There are people who voted for Biden and voted for Trump. There are people who didn't vote at all, wouldn't want anybody, and voted for Trump this time. Like, there are those people. So we will talk about that. But like, let's if I were to say we can point to misogyny, you can point to racism, you can point to some of these external factors of why Kamala lost. Weird name. Well, Barack's a weird name. But I would point the finger, number one, at she was kept away, and they're like, oh, her voice is shrill or her laugh is high pitched or whatever, that the more she talked, the more off-putting she would appear. Like, if she were her authentic self, she would be off-putting. People wouldn't relate to her. And so they're like, "Well, let's just it's like 3 months to the election. Let's put her in a box somewhere and go, "Yeah, yeah, she's there. Let's do that. Let's get her out at rallies and whatever to drive out the vote." But nobody knew who the hell she was. We don't know her personality, and it's so hard, and there is a little bit of double standard. It's so hard for a woman to come off as authentic in politics. It's really hard. Because if you're powerful in politics, like Nancy Pelosi is having a resurgence right now. Like her during the first Trump administration, she was cooler than shit. But now she's just a calculating bitch. Like that's what she is. She was so cool and now she's not, because of what happened with Biden and pulling him out of the election. But the same thing for Hillary. I would actually go if I were running the elections for any woman running on a national stage. You have to be unapologetically authentic, even if that means coming off shrill. And honestly, I would even say the biggest issue with both of them is they both lacked a fundamental sense of humor. Like how, and because a woman can't make a joke, a woman, then they're not serious, then they're not a serious politician. But look at everybody that we vote for. Obama was funny. Trump is hilarious. I mean, he's gross, but he's hilarious. Even going back to Bush and Clinton, go back to Reagan. They all had some element of sense of humor, and that women that enter politics at such a big level feel like they can't have. Like I would have if I were running Hillary's campaign, what is this, 8 years ago, right? 2016. If I were running her campaign, I would have had her on Oprah or whatever was the like some the late night talk shows. And she said that like basket of deplorables thing. Well, Elon Musk is saying basket of deplorables now and people are mad at it. Like it's not like Republicans don't think there's a group in their party that is not conducive to growth of the party. Like they know they have racists in their party. They don't really like them. But they're just, they're a powerful voting bloc. They're a very loud voting bloc, so you can't say anything. But it's off-putting having that come from a woman. It's off-putting having Hillary say that. But she lacked a sense of humor. She lacked authenticity. You know, I would have had her go on and talk about why she stayed in her marriage. Like, lay it all out. I stayed in my marriage because I liked the guy. I stayed in my marriage because I'm tired. I stayed in my marriage because I'm old. I stayed in my marriage because I love my daughter. Like, whatever your reasons were for staying in that marriage, she should have said it. She should have said it back then. And you know what's funny? She After she lost, she had this podcast called You and Me Both or something like that. She was fun on that. Where was that? Where was that when she was running? And I would say the same thing for Kamala now. I bet you she's fun to be around. I bet you she's funny. I bet you she's got a fuck ton amount of stories. None of those stories came out. None of them. Like, even I was watching the Democratic convention, which obviously it was all joy and like happiness and dance party, but it was fundamentally empty from a platform stance. Like, we're the good guys. And that's it. Or hers and her speech was all about I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer. Okay, well, I was a lawyer. Okay, that line got very old because over the course of 3 4 days everybody's talking about, well, she was a lawyer. Really, you got nothing else? You don't have a single other story? Nothing? She didn't meet anybody interesting in the Senate. She didn't go anywhere interesting. She didn't do anything interesting as vice president. Like, nothing. She didn't witness anything interesting. Like, there was no storytelling. And I could go to, okay, even in that moment, I go, this is going to be a long 90 days if this is the only thing you're going to trot out. And they were got mad and like everybody's like, "Well, what's your policy positions? What's your policy? What are you going to do?" And even I took umbrage at that. Like, "Hey, you wouldn't ask Trump that." Like, my favorite line, okay, there's two great pieces of Trumpisms that happened during the course of the election. One is, "I have concepts of a plan." like Like, that's my favorite. So you don't have a plan. I'm not president yet. I have concepts of a plan. And then the other one was the killing the cats and killing the dogs. That was a banger. I listened to the music set to that for a good 35 minutes. They're killing the cats. They're killing the dogs. And I thought it was hilarious. And a lot of people would go, "Oh, you're progressive. Like how atrocious that you're laughing at it." It was funny. Like, it was funny. But she was not gonna win. Like, she didn't have anything that went, "Hey, she's gonna change the status quo." And you know that guy that has predicted all the elections? But you know that guy that predicts all the elections, and he got it wrong this time. He's like, she's going to win because all the 13 indicators go in her direction. I knew she wasn't going to win. Even the polls, when they were saying, oh, she's neck and neck, I knew she wasn't going to win. She wasn't going to win. No, there was nothing to vote for. It's not enough to vote against it. And people say, well, it was enough last time. I'm like, yeah, because 2016 to 2020 was a dumpster fire, but our attention span and our memory bank is only 8 days. It's not even 8 days, it's like 8 hours. We don't remember that. People actually go back and think, oh well, 2016 to 2020 was like party time. It was awesome. Like, if you think back to that and you go, what was 2020 to 2024? Boring. COVID, inflation, rich people getting even richer, a lot of, lip service, riots, race wars, Me Too. Like, at the end of the day, when we think about the last 4 years, it's been nothing but either boredom or anger and losing ground. And so for what all the Democrats would come out and say, "Oh, we're the party of the people, we're the party of the people," you can't fucking get shit done. You didn't make anything better for anybody. And they would say, they would point to, look at all of these accomplishments that we're having. But during that tenure, you have Ukraine Russia war, you have Israel and Gaza and the October 7th attacks. It all feels awful. Everything feels awful. Even if you things were getting better, even if, oh, the recovery from COVID could have been a lot worse. Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. Do I believe Trump being in power during that time, it would have been a lot worse? Absolutely. But people can't focus on what could have been. They only know what was, and it's shitty. And then you trot out somebody out with 3 months to go in the election, and she goes, "Well, I'm a nice person, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm different, and I'm a woman, and you should vote for me just based on that." Never gonna happen. And people okay, this is very racist. I'm gonna tell you, because 'cause you're my brother and you're Indian too, and you know how racist Indians are. I thought it was funny that anybody would have thought that Indians would have voted for her because she's Indian. First of all, absolutely not. Nope. Her being part Indian played no role in me voting for her. I just I didn't vote for Trump because at the end of the day I have to if my son turned out to be like Trump, I would be skeeved out. Like I just don't want more humans like that guy. Like that guy's gross. He's legit gross. We don't need more of that. And so how can I vote for somebody I wouldn't want to be part of my family? Like he's gross. Um so I don't find her gross. I also found her to be stable. She's also competent. I didn't like that the whole oh she's stupid. I mean, she was Attorney General of California, Vice President of the United States, chairman of the whatever committee in the Senate. She's not stupid. Let's drop that. She's not stupid. But Indian people do not vote for women. Like fuck no. And they certainly don't vote for someone who's half black. They don't.
She was not Indian enough.
She was not Indian enough. And even if you think about, oh, JD Vance's wife is Indian. By the way, there's a lot of Indians in politics now, if you noticed. We're just coming out in droves, taking over this and that. There's a lot of Indians showing up on a national stage in politics all over the world. But Indians aren't going to vote for someone who is half black. And that sounds very racist, and there are going to be a bunch of Indians going, "No, that we didn't think about that, and no, that didn't play." And I'm like, "Okay, go talk to your auntie and your uncle and ask them if that played a role in who they voted for. It was taxes. Indians don't pay taxes. We don't want to pay taxes. Screw you and your taxes." And two, we're racist. Like the especially the older generations of Indians are hella racist. They're not gonna like the idea of the fact that her mother married a black man, which was probably in the 70s, right? Like how did that how did that go over? Not well. Not well. There's no way that went over well. And then they got divorced. Like,
Ooh.
ooh, demerit. Now you're half, half black, half Indian children who obviously are insanely smart, very capable. None of this should have been held against them. But yeah, Indians aren't going to do that. We're just not. So she didn't have the Indian vote, especially the rich uncle auntie vote.
From what I saw, they didn't even acknowledge she was any part Indian.
No, no.
That's how not Indian she was.
And what was weird is that like it was hard to Trump had that whole line, "I didn't know she was black," or "I didn't know she was Indian." I forget what it was in the debate where he was like, I didn't find out she was this until now. Now she wants to be black, or now she wants to be Indian. I always thought she was this or that. You know, that line resonates with people. This idea that, especially when you're mixed, you're never enough of either to be fully embraced by either group. You're it's really hard to get a foothold in any group and say, "Yeah, I'm black." Because if you're black and you adopt that culture and you adopt that identity, it's almost mutually exclusive of adopting a white identity or adopting an Indian identity or an Asian identity. Like, and the mixed group, my son is mixed, my niece and nephews are mixed. That group is growing, growing, growing. But yeah, they're not easily welcomed in any group that is solidly where their parents aren't mixed. They're like, it's hard to be in that group and it's hard to be in the other group. And so, finding that place to be that identity is really hard. And so if it's hard for you to be it, how does anybody look at you and know what you are? And it sounds really sad to say, like, oh, let's talk about what you are. This is a person. Doesn't matter. She's American. At the end of the day, she's American. She's the same American as me, you, and everybody. She has the same wants, dreams, hopes, ambitions as anybody else. It doesn't matter the what. But because that's confusing, it puts you on your back foot. I mean, I think Obama went through that same thing. It was a similar line of attack against Obama was used back then. And you go, well, he won twice being mixed, but Obama really embraced the black identity. And when he walked up to the podium, he sounded black, he acted black, he played basketball. You know, you didn't look at him and go, "Oh, he's mixed." But with Kamala Harris, there was no way to look at her and go, "You're black." Cuz she didn't even want you to do that. "Oh, I'm black." Even she didn't want you to do that. So puts it puts everybody on a back foot because it's just not easy to put you in a category. It's not easy to put you in a box. Not that that's what we should be doing. Like, this is not a conversation of should, or this is a conversation of is. People really struggled with that. They struggled with how to say her name. They struggled with, okay, well, she's a woman, for instance. The line was, hey, I saw a bunch of like exit polls. Well, we just don't think she's ready yet. We don't think she's ready yet. We don't think she can do it, or she doesn't have enough experience, or she needs more time to season, or whatever it is. But we voted, like, America voted for Trump with less experience. America voted for Obama with less experience. They voted for we voted for a lot of people across this nation's history with less experience. So it's not about experience. It's that female experience automatically has a question mark, right? Yeah.
Well, that's where my question is, because so you as a woman, you mentioned early on something about being authentic, but my even if it comes across as shrill, but would you say that women actually can do that? Would that have even helped her? Because
No,
from what
probably
I've
not.
seen, yeah.
Probably not. It's not that I don't know that it would have helped. I think there was a lot of things going against her, but I don't know that it would have hurt as much as they thought it would have hurt. At this point, it's kind of be me or go home. Like, if you're a woman in politics today, you probably, it's like, you got to be yourself now. You can't win if you try to adopt a masculine language and try to show yourself as powerful, and no one's gonna stomp all over you. You're a bitch, plain and simple. You're cold, you're calculating, you're ambitious, you're a bitch. and nobody wants to vote for a bitch. They all think you and your pantsuits are going to be, talking down to us, right? That's how everybody thinks of it. And if you're soft and you're feminine and you're wearing a dress and you put makeup on, you have long hair, can anyone take you seriously? Oh, she cares too much about her looks. Oh, she cares too much about fashion. Oh, she cares too much about the unimportant things in life. If she's a mom, she's going to care too much about her children. If she's not a mom, she didn't care enough about America to have children. Right? Like that there is no winning in trying to straddle that fence to be the perfect version of woman. There's no winning there. And so you just need to be yourself. Win or lose. I lost as myself. I said something dumb. I have gaffes. Even this recording, I have 25 minutes of me being absolutely heinously racist. Like, I am never going to be president. This is going to bog me down for the rest of my life. Let's be truthful. There's no way that there's no clip of this if I ever wanted to run for president doesn't get trotted out as a reason why I shouldn't be. But fuck it. I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna run for president, it doesn't matter. I'm I'm just gonna be myself, and I think there is gonna be a time in America where there will be enough people where if they meet someone authentic, someone powerful, someone with a sense of humor, someone who can walk into a barbecue place and sit next to a guy wearing a MAGA hat and have a conversation and they both laugh and enjoy it, eventually that's going to happen. Eventually. Not today. And I don't think it's the next election cycle either. I don't know that we throw another a woman up. By the way, Republicans can't vote for a woman either. They had options. They had opportunity to not go the Trump route. They chose against it too. So we're fielding women, and I think a lot of people even said when Biden dropped out, well, you can't not choose Kamala Harris. She is the rightful heir, right, as VP. Because if he won and died, she would be president, right? So how do you not pick the vice president to take up the mantle of the ticket? There were a lot of money reasons for that too, and a lot of ramp up reasons. People think will point to her choice of VP as problematic. Like the VP didn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody voted for her because of her VP. Nobody not voted for her because of her VP. Hell, nobody will even remember who her VP was. He's fine. Tim Walz, great. It could have been any insert generic white guy. That literally was the mandate. Insert generic white guy. And
I have
move.
another question. So then, would you say that the reason that people voted for Trump, the reason that Trump won, was simply because we had the wrong candidate? You know, because we had a woman or we had a really old guy, but had we had just a better candidate, then people wouldn't have voted for Trump? Or
No.
is there a reason why, beyond the candidate that people voted for Trump? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's absolutely beyond the candidate. Because honestly, progressives have a deep bench of strong candidates. Shapiro's great. Gretchen Whitmer is great. Um, who's the guy that she almost chose as a running mate? From Arizona, the astronaut, Mark Kelly. He's great. Pete Buttigieg, and I don't know how to say his name. Great. There's a deep bench of younger, energized progressives, both women and men, of color, not of color. And I think I picked only the ones, not only the white, only the white people ones. But there's a lot of candidates. There's a lot of great candidates. I don't know that any of them would have won.
So why not?
I think, well, and that we can play Monday morning quarterback, right? You can say Shapiro could have won. He's charismatic. I don't think we're ready to vote for a gay president, so that's out. Kelly could have won because I don't know what skeletons are in that closet, but if he doesn't have any big ones, he probably could have won. But then how do you say that? How do you pass up the vice president and say, "No, no, we need to field a white guy." Cha- by the way, one of those two is probably got to be the candidate for 24, and maybe Whitmer or Buttigieg being the VP option. That's where my head would go if we want to get out of this MAGA conservative trap. If that's your philosophical bend, if you're very, very happy, then then I don't know, Trump isn't gonna be in his mid 80s. There's no way. I don't see him going again. But
Well, he's also won twice, so
he's
he
also
can't.
but I think they're thinking, oh well, let's make the exception that it can't be consecutive or something. I feel like that's going to be something they'll talk about, like, oh, he can run again. He didn't have two consecutive terms. But I think the question is the right question. Is it more than the candidate? And it is more than the candidate. It's I will say it's part the platform. It's part that we lost a lot of people in 2016. I think there were a lot of party switches that happened in 2016. I think there was a lot of party switching that happened in 2020. A lot of progressives going, "Nah, I'm out." And I'll tell you why. If we go just on politics, what Trump is offering is, let me do what I want to do. You don't care about the Mexicans anyway. You don't care about the gays anyway. You don't care about the trans anyway. You don't care about these people anyway. They're the reason that you have problems. Let me throw some money at you. Leave me alone to do whatever I want. And you won't be bothered. I'm not asking you to work. I'm not asking you to try hard. I'm not asking you to fight wars. I actually don't want to fight any wars. Fuck Ukraine. Like, fuck them. Like, I don't want to fight any wars. Nobody has to go to war. Um, we don't need to fund any of this stuff. We don't need to fund NATO. We don't need to give a shit about the rest of the world. It's about you. You worry about you. I'll do me. That's a very compelling message, right? If I'm tired and I'm tired of being lectured to, and I'm tired of being told that I suck, and I'm tired of being told that everything that's wrong with America is my fault. If I just want to work and feed my family and be left the fuck alone, there's only one party saying, okay, go do it. There's only the Republicans saying, do you, boo? We don't care. Now, they're only saying that to one group of people. Like, they're not saying that to me. They're not saying that to you. But they're saying that to a group of people that it resonates with. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of disenfranchised people, young whites, um, middle aged, middle income white families, even black families. Like, and I would even say that culturally, Hispanics and black people are conservative by nature. They're more religious. They're they're more intent on um, self determination. There is a conservative streak socially and politically through those groups. Historically, they have voted progressive. Why? Because there's a very loud segment of the Republican Party that wants to have lynchings again, that really misses slavery and really misses Jim Crow. Like, there's a really loud group. I don't think it's as huge as we think it is, but they're very loud, making it seem big. Like, they're the type of people that definitely don't want black people in the office. They're definitely the people that don't want women to work. They're definitely that group. And so, why it's hard to, if you are conservative socially, to go to the Republican Party because historically they have not wanted you there. But in today's world, the Republican Party did a lot of work to reach out to those groups and say, hey, Democrats have been, they're virtue signaling. They don't care. They're just as racist as anybody else. They're giving you handouts. They're telling you you can't do things. They're telling you you can't succeed. They're playing race politics and saying the reason you're not successful is because you're black. We want you. We want your vote. And guess what? We'll lower your taxes. You know, we'll do this or that for you. And that's very compelling. If you've achieved some form of success as a black person, that's compelling. You're not getting what you want to get out of the Democratic Party. You're not getting what you want out of progressivism. Racism isn't going down, it's going up. It's not getting better. So being progressive is not benefiting these minority groups. Same thing with Hispanics. Other than mm, you know, undocumented immigrants from Mexico, a lot of Hispanics are wealthier. They're fleeing socialism. They moved to America to flee socialism and communism. Cubans are conservative. They're not socialist. They're not progressive because that's a slippery slope to them. They saw what authoritarian socialism does to a country. Venezuelans, Colombians, Nicaraguans, Argentinians, all these people that come from Latin America that came here are the ones with money and something to protect. And so what happens when progressives go, I'm going to tax the rich and I'm going to defund the police and we're going to confiscate your guns? What does that sound like? What does that sound like? It sounds like, oh, I've seen this story before. Why do you think Miami-Dade turned red? Miami-Dade County, which has been blue and kept Florida purple for 2 decades, 3 decades, went red. Florida went super red. It is Republican country now because all of the Republicans from California and New York moved here because of COVID restrictions. And then all of the Americans that lived here and have built, isolated communities here where they free to be themselves and they've left socialism behind to go and have self-determination in America. They're not Bernie Sanders socialist. They can't vote for that. And I don't blame them. That rhetoric, all that rhetoric in 16, that hard shift left is going to be very hard for Democrats to overcome. If you're progressive, it's going to be very, very hard to get past that. Because even I found it off-putting. You still need police. And there's still crime, there's still murder, there's still this. You still need law enforcement. Does law enforcement need reform? Absolutely. Does there need to be more educated people in law enforcement? Absolutely. Is there racial profiling that's negative? Absolutely. But we think that we can just defund the police and everybody would just be great. We're all just nice people. If just given a chance, we would all be nice to one another. And I say this all the time. You and I talk about this. I always say the problem with progressivism is we believe too much in the good in people. We think that if left to our own devices, if it weren't capitalism or the government or outside influences, if we were left to our own devices, we would all form communes and share our apples, and there would be no jealousy, and we would just be nice, and there would be no race or color or differences of culture because we all just want to hug and be happy with one another, right? Like that's what we think we would naturally do if it weren't if we weren't incentivized to be bad, right? If we weren't incentivized to be greedy. That's not true. It's just not true. Like you can't say, "Oh, let's get rid of bail and we'll release everybody on their own recognizance, and there won't be negative consequences to that, right? Is the bail system unfair? Maybe, but it like getting rid of it doesn't solve your problem. Like it just doesn't, because the idea that everybody who's been arrested was a good guy who got caught doing a bad thing one time or was innocent to begin with is not true. And so yes, our legal and justice system needs reform. There is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, but there are negative consequences to just getting rid of systems because they're inherently unfair. You can't get rid of them. You have to reform them. You have to figure out how to make them better, and get making something better takes time. On the converse, right? Conservatives believe too much in the bad in people. They think if left to our own devices, we would all cheat, we would all steal, we would all murder, we would all pillage, right? And so we need strict enforcement. We all need, you know, the heavy eye and the heavy hand of law enforcement to deter our natural inclinations to be bad. We are all inherent sinners. And if left, if there weren't laws, we would all just, it would be the purge every single day. That's also not true. Because even if you watch The Purge, most of those people are sitting out that shit. Like the movie, you know how crowded it would be if we were all like, let's go riot, let's go steal, let's go murder. Like there, most of the people, even in that movie, sat their ass at home. We are not participating in the purge.
It also doesn't make any sense. I never understood that. As if like companies would be happy with, up half my workforce died yesterday. Looks like I'm going out of business.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I think there is this idea, if we punish people enough, they would change behavior, right? Like if we make it so inconvenient to be gay, gay people would be like, you know what, you're right. It's really hard being gay. I see the error of my ways. Let me not be gay. Like I see that it's so much easier. It's better to not be gay. Or if we just, punish trans people, or if we just punish female promiscuity, and we call it promiscuity, that's a negative connotation. But if we punish a woman who gets pregnant and doesn't want to be, if we punish her, if we make it inconvenient enough, if we make pregnancy inconvenient enough, she would know better and go, you know what? Maybe I don't want to get pregnant. Maybe, but I'm not allowed to have birth control because then I'll want to have sex. So, because it's, if given the opportunity, the freedom, the consequenceless opportunity to go have sex, that's what women will do. If we were all on birth control, we're on it. So you can't have birth control because that's too encouraging of sexual behavior. You can't have abortions because that's too encouraging of sexual behavior. So let's make it really hard, really bad, really inconvenient for women to go out and have a sex life that we don't want them to have. And we think, oh no, we're pro life. This idea of we're pro life. We're not pro life. That is not pro life. The whole reason, if you look at all of the documentation, the whole reason you want the life to be born is not because it's innocent, not because you want to care for it, not because all life is precious. It's because it's a punishment. If we allow abortion, then women will go have sex. They will feel free to choose their sexual partners. They will feel free to be young and you know, have agency over their bodies. We don't want that. We don't want that. So we must punish her with a baby. The baby is the punishment. It is, now you'll think about what you did. Like, we can't let you get off scot free. You must have this child. It's your fault. And we in the abortion debate, you eliminate men from that equation because the male goal is to impregnate. Like the male goal is to go make babies and to go get women to have sex with them, right? Like that's the male goal. So it's almost like how do you tell the genders two different things? Women don't get pregnant and have babies. Men go get women pregnant and have babies. Like, go do it. and and just by the very nature of what we tell them, you're screwing over a gender. Like somebody's got to get screwed over. If women all put on chastity belts with like shock collars on them, you'd have a lot of guys who are just upset all the time. So like I think this idea of like you can punish your way to a better society doesn't work either. You can punish people and say, "Oh, let if we deny gender affirming care, we'll have no more trans people. If we deny gay marriage, we'll have no more gays. If we deny abortion, we'll have no more abortion." And everybody will be kumbaya because the consequences of not being perfect are so stark. I'm going to behave perfectly now, right? Like according to the way society wants you to behave. So both are batshit crazy. Both of them don't work. Like there's no way that if you went purity in either camp, that either one results in a society that functions where anybody's happy. So you have to agree that you need both.
Well, so you mentioned something along the lines of how progressives are insufferable, which, yes, definitely. You mentioned how, the last 4 years were, boring. I was bored. I was definitely bored the whole time. I never heard from Kamala Harris once the last
Once.
4 years. I was like, and when she was VP, running in 2020, I was like, okay, maybe she's gonna like do something, say words. And I was like, did she get put in a bunker somewhere? I'm not sure. Like, did she die? Because heard nothing from her for 4 years. So all of these are definitely uh, real things. But then I would ask you on the other side. So I asked you about would it have changed if there was, a different Democratic candidate? But then on the other side for Republicans, are you saying then that this same exact result would happen with every Republican candidate? That it doesn't actually matter who the Republican candidate is, they'd get this same exact result.
No. And that's the thing is that it is specific to Trump. The and someone asked me, they're like, "Oh, it's Trump policies. We like his policies. We like his policies. We don't like what he says, but we like what he does." I heard that a million times, especially from anybody who are my Republican friends. And yes, I have Republican friends who I love very dearly. And people can say, "How can you invite them to Thanksgiving? How can you invite them into your home?" Because ostracization doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and they're nice people. And I believe that by communicating, when I talk to them and I tell them, "Oh, this is what happened to me," on a personal level, person to person, they hear me. They also, you find if you talk person to person without using the high rhetoric, we generally agree. And I'll even I'll talk about this in a minute, but I want to answer your question. It is specific to Trump. People think that Republicans, it's about the politics, the social agenda, the restrictions, the deregulation, the low taxes, all of that. But there were 12 people running for the Republican presidency. There so many candidates back in 16 and in 2024. They were coming out of the woodworks to run for for president, right? Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Pence, all these guys.
DeSantis.
DeSantis, Ted Cruz, all these guys have all tried to run for president against Trump. Their politics are more MAGA than Trump is, right? Like they're more Republican, they're more hardcore than even Trump is. So why Trump? And my theory on this is that no one wants to be DeSantis. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, you know, my ultimate ambition, the American dream is that if I woke up in Texas and I looked in the mirror and my face was Ted Cruz's face, that I would be happy. Like, nobody wants that. Zero people wake up and go, you know who I really want to have over for lunch? Ted Cruz. You know who I really want to have over for lunch? Mike Pence, Nikki Haley. No, none of these people. None of these people are charismatic. None of these people appeal to that demographic. They're all Ivy League educated. By the way, so is Trump. Like he's a Wharton grad. He's not exactly stupid. Well, he could be stupid. I mean, you can buy your way into these institutions, but it's not exactly like he's from Alabama State, like university, right? He's not a man of the people. He didn't grow up on a farm. He grew up rich. He stayed rich. He had rich parents. He has rich kids. You know, he's married a bunch of times. They're like, from a standpoint, all these other guys married once, loyal to their wives, have decent looking kids. I mean, whatever. But no woman wants to wake up and be DeSantis's wife. Nobody. Zero people, zero women wake up and go, it'd be awesome as a trad wife. I'd love to be DeSantis's wife. No, you want to be Trump's wife. You know how awesome it is to be Trump's wife? You know how awesome Melania's life is? She wakes up in her own goddamn room. She has her kid. She brought her parents here. She has more money than God, and she's left the fuck alone. If anybody thinks Melania Trump is sleeping with Donald Trump, I have a gently used dented Tesla to sell you. Like I have some things that I want you to buy. And I assure you they are worth every penny I'm asking. But no, she's living the life. If I were, someone who didn't want love in my life, yeah, you give me like a gilded palace, a great son, no obligations or responsibility to you except to show up every once in a while and look at you with disdain. I don't even have to hold your hand. like like I can roll my eyes and just look pretty. I don't know. I have a chef. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't have to do anything, and I always look amazing. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, that sounds great. And if I'm Trump, if I'm a guy and I look at Trump, hell yeah, I want to have a bunch of money and sleep with whoever I want to and say whatever I want to whomever I want without any consequences whatsoever. Yeah, I want that. That sounds awesome. There are no consequences. I can say whatever I want at any point for whatever reason, and no one would ever fire me. I get to keep all my money. Even then, we go, oh, he didn't win the election. They all think he did. They all think he did. They all were pouring into his legal fund. This guy has so much money, and he got people like farmers taking what little hard-earned money they have and giving it to him to stay out of jail. Like he is a very compelling figure. And so I get why people voted for him. You're not asking anything from me except to vote. You're everything I wish I could be: rich, famous, brash, unencumbered, completely free. He is the embodiment of freedom, right? Is there anything Trump couldn't do? Is there anything? Can anybody think of anything he can't do? Nah, he was right when he walked up and said, "I can shoot someone in the middle of the street and I wouldn't lose a single vote." He was absolutely right. 100% right. We were like, "Oh my god, how let's bristle, let's hmm, how how can that be?" No, he was right. Like, he, is untouchable. Now, the only thing is he's old. And by the way, that senility is had hit him quick, quick, right? Like,
It's coming.
it's
It's
with
in 4 years. He may not be much different from Biden.
he's not much different from Biden now. He thinks he is. He has more maybe lucid days than Biden does, but he's there now. If you think he's running this country right now, you are out of your mind. You are out of your mind. Elon Musk is running this country right now. He absolutely is. Elon Musk is president because Trump isn't even Trumpy. Like, where are the rants? I keep looking for him. I keep looking for the crazy. He's putting out the creepy photos of eating McDonald's with, like, what with Kennedy. Like, okay, and
He's
Musk, and
tired.
he's tired. He can't even find the handle to the door. He's stumbling all over the place. Like, this idea that he's all there. No, he ain't there. It and nobody cares. Nobody cares. So he won, and I know a bunch of people that came to me and they go, "Well, I was really sad." And in 2016, when Hillary lost, at that point, it was weird to me because, I mean, for God's sakes, the woman's resume was better than anybody's. You could not be more qualified to be president than her. She has accomplished more in politics than even her husband. Like, she and more than most people, right? Like, not even most people, all people. You couldn't be more qualified. Like, on paper, she should have won handily. If she were German, if this was Germany, she'd have succeeded Angela Merkel. She'd have been elected in the United Kingdom. She'd have been elected anywhere, almost anywhere else in the world. She would have been elected.
Well, especially because other places do you get a majority of the vote, you win, and she did get the
A
majority of the
majority of the
vote.
vote, but so I think everybody expected her to win, wanted her to win. There was a lot of that. But the backlash to progressivism was so stark. I think that for sure sexism played a role in that. I think racism also played a role in that. I be against Obama. I think a lot of that played a very significant role. I think Bernie Sanders fucked her over royally. A selfish prick fucked her so hard. Like, Bernie Sanders is the reason we lost the Latin vote. And I say we like I'm part of it, but I'm not part of it. But yes, everybody thought she would win and wanted her to win. And so when she didn't win, there was like, oh my God, how do we choose this over her? How? How does America do that? How? And it was shocking and so scary. And he was gross, like right off the bat, he was gross. And we knew he was gross before he got elected. And so there was the protests and all of that coming out at that time, and so much sadness. And and people were like, I'm sad now. I'm not. I'm over it. I'm over it. The government is fucked. It's gerrymandered all to hell. The Supreme Court is gerrymandered to hell. Mitch McConnell has succeeded in his life's mission of reconfiguring the Supreme Court in his image. It was his only goal is to install a Republican Supreme Court who would stay Republican for 20 years, right? It was his life's mission and he succeeded. Will that cost the Republican Party in time? I think so. Will it cost America in time? It already has. It already has. This Supreme Court is going to do a lot of things to undo progress in America. If you think you are going to be better off, if you think that if you're just making ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck, that this Supreme Court is not going to vote to screw you over, you're out of your mind. They think freedom extends to corporations. Which it absolutely should not. There is no unlimited freedom. Freedom has limits, and it has limits everywhere in the world. It has limits even in our Constitution. We already accept some of those limitations. So we are already paying the price of this current court. But that is what he did, and that is what Trump allowed to happen. So he's not for the people. So we are already there. With now being what do we do now? People are like, "Oh, go and run for office." I would even say fuck it. Don't run for office. You ain't
Sounds like a
getting
bad idea.
elected. You ain't getting elected.
Even if you
Let's be
do, though,
let's be
you,
clear.
you
Unless you are, because the gerrymandering is real. If I went and ran for governor of Florida, I'm a very liked person. That sounds so like not true because I'm all of this. But I generally can get along with anybody. And I am respectful of most people's viewpoints, especially when they extend respect to me. And I will say, when I went to go vote, it was the Republican group who are, you're allowed to stand outside the precinct and have your flyers and point in the direction of where the precinct is and say, hey, do you have your sample ballot? Like, right? Both parties are allowed to sit out there and do that. It was the Republican group that, as I walked past, were like, girl, you are working those shoes. Hey, do you want to talk? They didn't even talk to me about politics. They didn't even talk to me about way I voted. They they told me I looked nice. They told me I had to have a great day. They told me it's a great day in America to be a voter and to walk out and cast my ballot. They didn't care that I wasn't voting for their candidate. Didn't care. They were so nice. It was so pleasant. And then I walk past the Democratic side. They're just holding a sign. They're, unenthused, sad. Like, and maybe it's because they knew they were going to lose and the other side knew they were going to win. But I find that to be true a lot, though, that my interactions with Republicans tend to be calmer. Even when I espouse, and they're like, well, you're not talking about politics. No, even when I talk about politics, even when I talk about feminism, even when I talk about what it's like to be a female leader, even when I talk about um, my philosophy and what policies I would have if I were president, which are in stark contrast to a lot of the things. I'm pro choice, 100% pro choice. Even when I have those conversations with someone who is vehemently pro life, it's a starker stance. They, to my face, one on one, they're not calling me a whore. They're not calling me evil. They're not calling me any names. But I do see people on the progressive side running up to people and calling them a bigot and a fascist and an asshole and a Karen and throwing like paint on them and like, stop it. Like, you're not getting your point across. It's not changing hearts and minds. It's not working. It's not working. And they say, well, why should I be nice to someone who wouldn't be nice to me? They would be nice to you. They absolutely would be nice to you. Sit down, listen to them. And I will guarantee you, once you start talking about why people believe what they believe, you will find that you agree. You agree fundamentally on the problem. You don't agree on the solution. And that's okay. And I will guarantee, and if we had a functional government, the solution is a combination of conservative and progressive efforts. The truth is in the middle. But we have this winner take all. Republicans control the thing, so we get to see what a whole Republican, whole conservative society would look like. That's what we deserve. Or if it's progressive, we get to go full progressive and do everything in a progressive ideal agenda would allow us to do. And that's what we deserve. Both of those societies don't function. You need conservatives. You need progressives. They need to talk to each other. The best legislation are bipartisan. Are bipartisan. And the abandonment of that and us continuing to vote the way we do and continuing to allow the government to function the way it does is producing the negativity we see in the world. It's producing us continuing to fall behind. It's producing Congress doing fuck all. I mean, let's be real. Congress has done fuck all since 2012. It's been 12 years. It
Did
is
they even do
annoying.
that much then?
Well, I would say maybe when was ACA passed? 2010
Okay. Yeah.
came into play in 2012. That's it. Dreamers, all that stuff happened, I think, in Obama's first term when he had a progressive mandate. When it was split, it's been nothing since. We've accomplished nothing since. We've done nothing good since. And it is Congress. Congress matters more than presidents. Our representatives matter more than presidents, and we need to stop electing idiots. There are way too, you know, go look at Congress and look at your representative. E- e- Even when you look at a Pelosi or some of these older guys, like Mitch McConnell, should not even be in the Senate anymore. Like, there's a whole group of people that just don't believe in retirement. They just don't. And they say, "Well, I'm smarter and I know everything." But no, you don't, because you can't understand that how do you regulate AI? Can't We're so far behind. Social media has come, taken over, and gone away as the biggest change in America without any regulation whatsoever. We missed it because we don't fundamentally understand it. Congress doesn't even understand how the internet works. Like, they don't understand it. We are on the verge of a technology revolution that is going to change everything about how society functions and works and gets paid. And we don't have anybody in Congress or at the highest levels of government who understands what that means or how it works. So it's just going to happen to you. It's just going to happen to you. This oligarchy that we formed where tech giants now run America, and they do. They do. They're there to protect their interests. They're there to protect the billions they've made. If we think tech people are nice people because they live in California or are Silicon Valley bred, forget it. They're all trying to hold on to what they built. It does not behoove them to do anything nice for anybody now. Doesn't. Doesn't behoove them. So if we think they're our saviors, oh, these tech giants may put Zuckerberg in Congress. Absolutely not. He has too much to lose to keep everything the way it is. Keep the control that he has. But you can say that about leaders of Google, of Apple, of Microsoft, of Nvidia, of everybody. You can use that in the entire tech space.
Well, this leads me to wonder that you talking about the future. So if everybody or a lot of people are tired of the progressive path and how progressives behave themselves, as you've been mentioning, and if a lot of the uh, excitement and love in on the Republican side is towards Trump, where do we go from here? What happens when if Trump doesn't run again? You know, because he can't, or because he's too tired to fight to do it. I don't know. But if he were to go away, where do we go from here? What even happens next? Because all the issues you've raised, people are still going to be tired of the progressives. People are still not going to want to wake up as DeSantis's wife. Where do we go from here?
I think I'm actually looking forward to the next election cycle, because I think it would be interesting to see where we go from here. I will say that the Republican Party, that coalition between um, people who are rank and file, work a day job, right? Everyday Americans, that silent majority group of people, and the ultra rich, that that coalition that has been formed is already fracturing. We can see it already fracturing. And I think the next 4 years will be very illuminating on what a purely Republican idealized society looks like. And I think we will find that in 4 years' time, we're still not better off. It's not better. And if it is, by the way, if it is, let's leave that room, because if we're all better off in 4 years under purely Republican policies and tactics, don't we want that? And I mean all, not just a certain group of people. Like if I'm doing better and you're doing better, and anybody who identifies as anything is doing better. They have more job opportunities, they're making more money, they can afford groceries, they can afford a house, they can afford to, not take a Saturday job and have three side hustles on top of their full-time job. Like if everybody's life is getting better under Republican policies, then we should be happy about it. But eventually, if I'm right, and that doesn't happen, eventually America has to start taking a hard look at itself and maybe think the set it and forget it form of government that we have, which is we established it 250 years ago. Maybe it's not one of those things that doesn't need to constantly be reshaped for a modern society. Maybe we do have to look at our Constitution. Maybe we do have to look at our rights. Maybe we do have to look at how Congress is shaped and formed. Maybe we have to look at our two-party system. Maybe we need to change, and change is hard. And that's the problem with progressivism anyway. And it's all of progressives love going change, 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 change. Fight, 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 fight. God damn it, I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. I don't want to fight anymore. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting. Just do it already. Get it over with. It's too hard. So the next election cycle will be interesting because, and maybe it's not the next one. Maybe it's the one after that. The old guard. I mean, come on, they're going to be in their 90s. They're already in their 80s. This group of congressmen and women who are doing whatever they're doing to inject themselves with other youthful serums or whatever. What are they doing for this longevity? I don't understand. They're being kept alive, cryogenically. They like eventually they're gonna stop, and eventually it's Gen X's turn, right? Eventually we might even skip poor Gen X. They're so neglected. They're gonna be, you know what it is? And I just thought about it. You know how, like, in England, Queen Elizabeth died, and then, like, she's like, "Fuck you, Charles. I'm gonna die, Queen." And he waited until he's in his early 70s to be king, and he's not healthy now, and he gets like 3 years to be king. Like poor Gen X. Like we're gonna turn over from boomers and skip right over Gen X and go right to millennials. Like they didn't even have a chance. And they're like, and I bet you all of them would go, yeah, that tracks. We're just a forgotten generation. Nobody cares. We're latchkey kids. Our parents weren't home. It would it would make sense that we don't ever get a chance to run the country.
Honestly, I forgot about Gen X.
Right? Like it is. Like in 10 years time, millennials are going to be 50.
You go from boomers to millennials. There was
Millennials.
nothing in between. Were there people in between? I'm not actually
Yeah, actually,
certain.
sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. I heard something about malls. Maybe they're all there.
What's that?
What's a mall? Where do we have malls
That
anymore?
that doesn't sound familiar.
No. But then, like, I feel so bad. Like, if you just think about it, logically, that's what's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna be Gen Zs and millennials running things, and Gen X going, fine, just leave us alone. We didn't want to go out anyway. But I think we're here because we're tired. We're here because politics is now reality TV, and we really want it to be like the Real Housewives of California, like we really do. And at least it'll be interesting. And honestly, we're sitting here going, okay, what can we do? Can we vote? Can we run for office? If you're progressive and you're like, well, I don't want the negative consequences. I don't want all these deportations. We don't need a Mexican Trail of Tears, right? That's what they're proposing. We don't want these policies. I would be willing to bet that Republicans don't want those policies either. Like, it's easy to keep, like, in the beginning of Trump's term in 2016, he put the travel ban in, right? The Islamic groups, Muslims not, predominantly Muslim countries not being able to get visas and come to the United States. It's okay to disenfranchise people you don't see, right? We didn't see them coming. They're just not able to come. It's not like they came and went back. And then we had the border crossings where we had so many people crossing the border, and we were doing family separations, and that was all very, very sad. And it was on TV, and it was sad. And we think that's going to happen again. It is going to happen again. It is going to happen again. Are we desensitized to that? Are we going to be like, it's sad? If Are we going to have more bigoted rioting? Are there going to be more, Charlottesvilles, more pitchforks, more crosses in yards, more, vandalizing of both synagogues and mosques? Are we going to have more of that? I think so. I think we're going to have more of that. I think we're desensitized to it. I think we're just going to go, that is sad. Just like we are with school shootings. We go, sad. Guess we can't do anything about it. Guess there is literally no solution. We don't even want to try a solution because, I need, AK-47s in my house. Like, I need it. It makes me feel cool. I like it. Like, I think that's what we're resigned to. That progressivism is almost like, okay, take the wheel and drive. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not at the I'm and people will come at me going, "Well, you got to march and you got to protest and you got to take off work and you got to sacrifice your livelihood and you got to do this and that." None of that's going to help. None of those protests ended school shootings. None of those protests made it better work environments. None of those protests led to more women sitting on boards. None of those protests led to more opportunity for minority groups and disenfranchised groups. None of it. None of it led to better drinking water. None of it led to cleaner air. None of it. That the 1970s approach of trying to get change doesn't work. Protests aren't going to work unless we're all willing to sacrifice. And there's you look at any game theory book, the chances of getting even just people who identify as progressives to all agree and sit down and be like, I'm going to sit out together on this issue because it's not my issue, right? I'm a woman. Am I going to go sit out with transgender women? There's a whole group of women who go, trans people aren't women, they're not men, they're trans people, and that's their own problem. Like, even amongst progressives, are we all going to go sit out there and go, the justice system is socially inequitable and we're going to go all sit? We're all going to sacrifice our livelihoods for it? We're all going to get fired? No, we're not. We're not going. So, my take on it now is, if you don't like the politics of today and you don't like what's coming down the pike, you have to ask yourself a question. If it came down to an undocumented immigrant family needing a place to stay, to hide, would you hide them? If it came to, you meeting people out in the street who are being disenfranchised by today's world, who are in danger, would you protect them? Or would you turn a blind eye to it? If you see a woman getting harassed in the workplace, are you going to go, guess women shouldn't be in the workplace? Like, or are you going to do something? And does that do something involve personal sacrifice? And so that's where we are. Do what you can to do the best that you can for the people you can. And that is how you change hearts and minds. Don't be insufferable. Just listen. Just listen. And I guarantee you, if you just listen, your work environment will be better. Like, don't lead with the anger. Just listen. And if you're getting nothing but put, and everybody will say, oh, that's not going to change anything. They're still assholes. We're still going to have increasing income inequality and whatever. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do about that except talk and be kind and be, you know, clear and go, you're not evil for believing what you believe. Do I think you're misinformed? Yeah, I think you're misinformed. But that doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you bad. This assigning of morality of bad and good. Progressives aren't good. Conservatives aren't bad. Start there, and then see what happens. Then I will say we might have a better election cycle the next time. That's what I would do. The anger and all of that is not going to do anything, and I think that's why we're not seeing it. We're not seeing protests. We're not seeing crying. We're not seeing full on meltdowns. No one's storming the Capitol. We've accepted it. Progressives have accepted it. This is what it is. Let's see what happens and just try to do your best to do the right thing. I'm Am I legitimately worried? I'm legitimately worried. But it's also day 1, and for some reason America survived 4 years of Trump. The UK has survived Henry VIII. It's survived, you know, Queen Elizabeth. It has survived King George. It has survived all of these things. It has survived asshole after asshole of the monarchy, and the monarchy is still there. It's still there. It survives. America too will survive. In 4 years' time, will it be worse for wear? Will it be a little haggard? Will it be a little frazzled and tired? Yes, just like it was in 2020. It's going to feel really shitty. And we're going to vote again for calmness and rationality, and then we'll go back to batshit crazy again. Like, we like to swing back and forth. It's like, if the opposite of now is better. Oh, the opposite of this now is better. Like, that's what we do. So America will still be here. And we just got to do our best in the meantime. I don't know what that looks like. I don't think anybody does.
I certainly don't.
No. Yeah. But I'm not as despondent as I was the first time. And it's going to be okay. And we will figure it out. And yes, I am that. I said it at the beginning. I'm very progressive. I believe that we should always be fighting to create a better world. I believe that, you know, togetherness and finding common ground is better than fighting. I just believe those things. And that's what I espouse in my everyday life. But that doesn't mean that I have to be in anyone's face. I'm not better than anybody. I'm not better than anybody that voted for Trump. I am like, you can say, oh, but they're fascist and they're bigoted and they're classist and they're this and they're that. And there are a lot of progressives that say that. And they look around the world and they say, oh, this is better and that's better. It's not better. There's no better. And chances are, in a hurricane or whatever else, your neighbor whose politics you don't know is going to come over and bring you a blanket or bring you water or welcome you into their home. And most of the time, neighbor to neighbor, we're friendly, except when it comes to lawns for some god awful reason. I don't know what it is about trees and lawns that is just so rage inducing amongst communities. But like generally, we can just get along.
because nobody wants to mow them.
But what I don't know what it is because when I think about it, like neighbor to neighbor, biggest fight that I see just between two people who live next to each other is literally encroachment of weeds. Oh, your tree branch is hanging over my fence line. Like that is the biggest gripe between neighbors. So if you can just keep your goddamn grass to yourself, you're gonna have no beef with your neighbors. But there's like I know I ranted a lot here, and this is all like politics and whatever it is. Politics is fucked. Congress is fucked. Presidency is fucked. The Supreme Court is fucked. Like, regulatory agencies are fucked. It is what it is. There's no right or wrong about that. Like, it just is fucked. So now, just fuck it.
Yeah,
Honestly,
and
go ahead.
as you're saying, I mean, uh, fighting it isn't really going to be a solution because if the institutions themselves are kind of broken, as you're saying, then the only way to actually change the institutions is with such a large majority that you got to find the common ground with the other side,
Yes.
because one side alone will never have the numbers to change any
Yes.
part of the Constitution,
If
any part of the institutions.
if I were progressive, I would swing right. Swing right and go wrap your arms around conservatives because I promise you, talking to them and allowing some restrictions on abortion or allowing some restrictions, and it sounds terrible, some restrictions on transgender access to sports or whatever it is. If we can swing right and start making lives better for everybody, because even in those cases, at least then, oh, I have a job though. Okay, maybe I can't get an abortion after 8 months. And that's sad. By the way, the only abortions that happen after 8 months are always fucking tragic. That's always, almost always. I can't even imagine how that's an unwanted baby. That was a wanted baby. Like maybe there are some restrictions. Maybe we let some of that go. But if we can improve all of our lives economically, such that the betterment of one minority group or one disenfranchised group doesn't necessitate someone having to give up or feel like they're giving up their freedom. Like it doesn't have, as long as it doesn't feel like a zero sum game, they're more likely to vote, yeah, okay, fine. Do what you want. It doesn't impact me. But right now everything feels like it impacts them. I have to give up something to give to somebody else. We have to find ways to have that not be true, where someone doesn't have to lose for someone else to win. So yes, we need to swing right. There is historical precedent for that. Germany did that after World War II. Reconstruction is the opposite of what you do, right? So we have an American example of what not to do. And then you will see we'll have much more common ground because we do. We have a lot more common ground with rank and file Republicans. Progressives have so much more in common with conservatives than anybody realize. This extreme ends of either side of the party, and people think that's linear. It's not linear. It's circular. The extreme ends of a spectrum are more alike than we think. The ultra MAGA, the ultra progressive are there is a hair length distance between those two philosophically. both of them believe in their own righteousness. Both of them believe in control. Both of them believe in government control, whether they say it or not. Both of them believe in government control. It's just what they're controlling differs. But they're about the same people. They use the same tactics, they use the same rhetoric. That's what it is. The rest of us are here, right? Like, we are actually closer than we're actually much more alike than we think. And people are much more independent thinkers than we believe. We just need to start talking. Stop telling your mom she can't come to Thanksgiving. Stop it. Invite her to Thanksgiving and just don't talk about the things that she hates, and just have some apple pie and go, "Oh, mom, you don't know," and go live your life. Be nice. If she's not going to be nice, you be nice, right? She's going to die eventually anyway. Then you can be free of it. Invite people to Thanksgiving. Have conversation. It'll be fine. And so that's where I'd leave it. I don't know that I solved anything today. I don't know that I think I pissed a lot of people off today. By the way, this episode will be the single biggest reason I can never join politics.
Hmm. It is over.
I said nothing good today. But that's okay. I don't care. So if you made it through a whole hour and a half, fantastic. My brother said all of 8 words because I could rant to a face, and he just took it. And that's what we do here. So this is Sheathal Weapon. I'm Lethal Sheathal. This is Biggie Chog. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you love this episode, or if you at least didn't hate it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. And hey, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Until next time, stay bold, stay real, peace out, deuces, and keep speaking your mind. See you soon.